A former St. Louis school principal is accused of paying his friend to kill his pregnant girlfriend. Cornelius Green is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
Last thing that I said to my daughter, she said, "I love you," and I said, "I love you too." And that was the last time I physically saw my daughter.
Prosecutors say that man, Phillip Cutler, was asked to kill a pregnant school teacher in St. Louis. They say he was paid just a couple of $1,000s to do it.
One of the biggest, most disturbing things is that Green admitted today that he sent the money to the killer in a package listing the Carr Lane Visual and Performing Arts Middle School as the return address.
This is Phillip Cutler from Muskogee. Prosecutors say Cutler shot her in the head using a potato as a silencer.
Prosecutors say she'd even chosen a name for her baby, Micah Lee, and they say that she was working on her baby shower invitations at the time too.
Mr. Green that she is referring to is Cornelius Green, and today the former middle school principal will be arraigned in a downtown St. Louis courtroom.
Well, Corey, Green plans to plead not guilty. That, according to his attorney. Now Green is being held on a $3 million cash-only bond.
He committed this crime in such a way that he would be as far away, actually physically far away, on the night that the murder occurred. Unfortunately for him, there's a lot of other evidence that points to the fact that he was directly involved and that he procured this homicide of his pregnant girlfriend.
Defendant is profoundly manipulative, and he devised this horrible plot to murder the mother of his child and his own child just to further his lifestyle.
It's important for people in the community to see that crimes like this are being investigated.
The judgment handed down could never fill in any gap. If a family member is experiencing things that you feel that are unnecessarily overwhelming just for it to be a relationship, encourage them to come out of that situation.
Jocelyn Peters, born and raised in St. Louis, was a 30-year-old teacher at Mann Elementary School. She is known for her vibrant personality. Jocelyn was a very trusting, loving, and hardworking person who always extended a helping hand to those in need. Friends and family constantly described her as magic.
Jocelyn was a bright light. She loved education. She loved teaching. She loved children. She was just a genuine, loving individual. I want her to be remembered for the beautiful person she was.
Dr. Nicole Conaway, who served as a principal at Mann Elementary when Jocelyn taught there, remembered her as a bright light who started each school day full of joy. In the classroom, she was a natural, fostering an environment where children took charge of their learning. Jocelyn's impressive job interview resulted in an offer just 15 minutes into the conversation.
She lights up any room that she goes into, and it's really important that people remember her. She was truly one of the best educators I've ever worked with in 20 years.
Jocelyn held high expectations for herself and her students, often arriving early and staying late, even on holidays and weekends. In 2014, she received a prestigious award for excellence, which was an honor for outstanding educators in the St. Louis School District. But during that time, Jocelyn met and started dating a middle school principal named Cornelius Green. Jocelyn and Cornelius met while working in the same educational environment before becoming romantically involved. Cornelius, the former principal at Carr Lane Visual and Performing Arts Middle School in St. Louis, had worked with the school district since 2002, and he held various positions as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal. Cornelius also received a lot of praise for his work and leadership in the community. But what people did not know about him was that Cornelius was allegedly a ladies' man. Although he was married with children, Jocelyn mistakenly believed that she was the only woman in Cornelius's life. She also believed that he was in the process of divorcing his wife, but unfortunately, Jocelyn was unaware that Cornelius had multiple other women, including at least one who was also duped by him into believing they were building life together. According to reports, Jocelyn loved Cornelius, but what she didn't understand was that Cornelius only loved himself, allegedly. When the two became pregnant again, his ruthless behavior showed after she didn't want to get an abortion. This would have been her third pregnancy. Jocelyn had miscarried before and terminated another pregnancy at Cornelius's urges, but this time she was determined to keep her baby. She was so excited and wanted everything to be perfect, but sadly, her plans for motherhood were taken away from her. Unfortunately, just 7 months into her pregnancy, and while she was planning for her baby shower, Jocelyn was tragically murdered by Cornelius's friend on his orders. Once Jocelyn announced her pregnancy, Cornelius was not on board at all. However, Jocelyn was determined to keep her baby. At that time, Jocelyn's main focus was on her unborn child. She was planning for her celebration while patiently getting ready for the arrival. Although Cornelius was not on board for the pregnancy, no one would have thought he would have gone through the lengths he did to stop it. According to reports, he started researching ways to secretly poison her by crushing pills and hiding them in oatmeal or yogurt. When that plan failed, Cornelius contacted his childhood friend, Phillip Cutler of Oklahoma, who was financially down on his luck and needed money to plot her murder. Cornelius took money from a school dance team's fundraiser to pay Phillip for his hitman services. The two planned and discussed the plot over a series of phone calls, and on March 7, 2016, Cornelius sent Phillip a UPS package containing $2,500 cash using the school address as a return. On March 21, 2016, Phillip arrived to St. Louis and stayed with Cornelius and his sister for the next several nights. As part of the plot, Cornelius traveled to Chicago to establish an alibi and left Phillip with the keys to his car and Jocelyn's Central West End apartment. Phillip drove Cornelius's Kia to Jocelyn's apartment on March 24, 2016 and entered the home using the key. Inside, Phillip found Jocelyn in bed and fatally shot her, using a potato to suppress the sound of a gunshot. Jocelyn was making a list of guests for her baby shower before she fell asleep, and Cornelius had Jocelyn buy those potatoes days before her murder. After Phillip confirmed that Jocelyn and the baby were gone, Cornelius bought a return train ticket to come back home. When Cornelius got back to St. Louis, he first tried to get Jocelyn's mother to check on her daughter, knowing what she would find. Only after he learned that she was unavailable did he go to Jocelyn's apartment and call 911 to report her death. And once he called, he pretended he did not know the circumstances leading to the deaths. He lied to the police while also trying to get Phillip and his wife to conceal the evidence against him.
Last thing that I said to my daughter, she said, "I love you," and I said, "I love you too." And that was the last time I physically saw my daughter. It was just unbelievable. I just kept telling my aunt, I just was like, just pinch me so I can wake up. You know, it was just like a nightmare. It's just something that I wouldn't want any parent to go through.
During the first 48 hours of discovery, Cornelius and Phillip were both questioned and let go by police. Even in custody, Cornelius was still contacting Phillip, but this time by asking him to conceal the evidence. Cornelius told police that he was using his phone to contact his daughter, but instead he called his wife to meet Phillip at a gas station. He wanted his wife to give Phillip the keys to his car, which was parked outside of Jocelyn's apartment. However, the car had already been towed by police because the area was now a crime scene. So once Phillip arrived, police interrupted the meeting and detained him for questioning. When told he was being detained, Phillip ate 2 pieces of paper from a notebook inside his pocket. He refused to speak to police that day, and he was later let go. In June 2016, 3 months later, Phillip Cutler was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of armed criminal action. However, Phillip eventually pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. In October 2016, Cornelius was charged with the same counts as Phillip, as well as 3 counts of receiving stolen property. He was being held on a $3 million cash-only bond when he was arrested. It took 8 long years for justice in this case due to several halts and conversations about evidence. Some believe prosecutors couldn't prove that the $2,500 was for the plot of murder.
He committed this crime in such a way that he would be as far away, actually physically far away, on the night that the murder occurred. Unfortunately for him, there's a lot of other evidence that points to the fact that he was directly involved and that he procured this homicide of his pregnant girlfriend. What we do know is that Mr. Green did send Mr. Cutler through the mail $2,500 in cash.
Sure, $2,500 may not seem like a lot to us, but out there are people willing to do anything for even less amount of money. $500, $200, $1,000. So yes, I mean, it seems like a trivial amount to, a certain amount of people when it comes to death and murder and assassination. But it's just, there are so many people out there willing to do an evil act for even less than that.
Attack motive as the defense and make the argument that because the payment was so low, the defendant did not make a deal or conspire to commit murder, that the $2,500 was likely for something else. I don't know, if the forensics are as clear as they may be, then we may not even get into motive, right? As you know, it's an old axiom. You don't have to prove motive. Juries often wonder what the motive is. And so if you have evidence of motive, you definitely want to get into it. But there are many contexts in which part of the defense theory is that the defendant's payment, even if that can be documented, is too low to be essentially what you would argue is the market price for the crime. We do see that, for example, in drug smuggling, where people are paid very small amounts and then end up with a very large load of concealed drugs in the car. We see this at the the U.S.-Mexico border in crossing cases with concealed compartments. And the defendants often argue that, look, this load was so large and the amount of money that I was given was so small, I might not have known, or I did not know would be the argument, what I was carrying. Something like that could be done here. But I mean, based on what's alleged, it doesn't look like the prosecution is going to need much in the way of motive evidence to prove that this defendant committed the act. And then the jury, will be left to ponder what sort of a world is it where somebody would commit such an act for such a low price.
Although Cornelius was facing the death penalty, according to a local journalist, going that route would have been hard for prosecutors because of the county's past.
Yeah, I mean, this is a heinous case. I mean, a pregnant young woman snuffed out in the prime of her life. It's horrible. Totally agree with that. However, this case began when Jennifer Joyce was still circuit attorney. In my former paper, the Riverfront Times, we had interviewed Jennifer Joyce about her feelings about the death penalty. It was very interesting to hear her talk about this because I think she was a very law and order kind of person, We all think of her as very different than Kim Gardner, who followed. And she said that she never wanted to take the death penalty off the table. She would never make a pronouncement like Wesley Bell made and say that she would never go for it. But that she ultimately began to realize that St. Louis City juries just weren't there. They weren't willing to go there. They, I think, have a lot of reservations about the death penalty that I myself share. And so she tried for it a couple times. Juries said no. There ended up being no one in her tenure who was convicted in a capital case. Wow. And that continued under Kim Gardner as well. In Kim Gardner's case, and in the later years of Jennifer Joyce's tenure, they did not even try.
However, some experts stated that if they focused more on how the murderer got access to her, it would lead to all their answers. All in all, prosecutors never took the death penalty off the table, but offered Cornelius a plea for life in exchange for his full testimony. Eventually, Cornelius took the deal, leaving his friend hanging, telling what part they all played in the matter.
There's a lot of times where individuals charged with crimes frequently think, okay, that may be their first offer. It's certainly going to get better. And when they realize at the last minute that it may not be getting better, a lot of times you'll see them jump in or dump in and take that offer. The reason a court does a Fry hearing is the defense attorney is required to convey any recommendation in exchange for a plea to his client. So in case the defendant is in fact convicted, he can't come back and say, my attorney was ineffective in that he never conveyed this offer.
He pleaded guilty to his charges in June 2022, and in June 2024, 2 years later, both men were finally convicted and sentenced. And on June 27th, U.S. District Court Judge Ronnie White sentenced Cornelius to 2 consecutive life sentences. Phillip was convicted in March on the same charges and sentenced on June 18th of 2 consecutive life sentences as well. During the sentencing, the family spoke out, saying that this trauma will follow them for the rest of their lives. Since her tragedy, the elementary school she worked at has a yellow day in her honor. The students come together and rejoice while wearing her favorite color.
For donating the doves in memory of Ms. Peters. So we are going to release the doves today in memory of Ms. Peters.
Miss Peters' spirit lives on here both figuratively and literally. This is her guinea pig, Sparkles. But moving forward has been difficult because there's no blueprint for how to explain such a devastating loss to a child.
And that's where these plastic lids come in.
Water bottles, lids off of your sour cream, your hair shampoo.
Trash will literally become treasure. The students, all grades, all classes, are collecting 1,100 pounds of plastic lids.
That's about 28 of those 55-gallon bags full of lids.
They'll be melted down and made into a memorial bench for Miss Peters that will sit just outside school walls.
So we are dedicating a side garden to her. It's the Jocelyn Peters Memorial Garden of Peace. We wanted something all the children could be involved in, and not all the children have money to donate or give, and we wanted them to feel like it was a part of them.
Because they were such an important part of Jocelyn.
I think she would be happy saying, look at my kids. Look at my kids, and she'd take great pride in that. It was an honor to have her.
This is absolutely devastating. I will continue to keep my thoughts and prayers with the family and friends of Jocelyn. This story came out around the time that I first started putting out these videos. I will never forget the limited amount of information that used to come out for Black stories. I'm glad that more information came out about this story, and I'm really glad that the family has finally received justice. 8 years is a very long time, and I think sometimes people forget how long these cases take and that hold it can have over our family. So let's please continue to keep them in our hearts. Let's please respect the family, friends, and the victim in the comments. I love you all dearly, and with that being said, please don't forget to check on your loved ones.